All right. So I'm assuming we're here and this works. Is there a way to turn this into like just the chat window? We'll figure it out. Yeah. Just need to mute this one. Hello and welcome everyone, wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's morning, midday, or evening. Today, after a long break, I'll be trying to do some Haskell programming again. I'm gonna try to bring up the chat, so if you want to say hi, I see that. How do I do that? Can I? Okay, so that seems good. All right, so I'll put that down here, and I hope that I don't miss if someone writes. Great. So the idea for today is that I will be working on the IDE server for PureScript, which is going to involve file watches at the start, which I hate. And if we're doing the right thing and it works out, at the end of the stream there won't be a file watch anymore, which is going to be a good thing. And so if anyone's there and the thing's working, I'd really appreciate if you just said hi in the chat. But I'm assuming it does because I just looked at the stream, so that should probably be fine. Okay, the delay isn't too bad either. Okay, so that's good. All right. Hi, Peter. All right, that works. Nice. Hi. Great. All right, cool. So yeah, so what's happening is there has been some changes to the PureScript compiler, which have made it so that there is a log file generated. Well, log file is maybe not the right word. It's a database file really that records the inputs to the last compilation process, and the idea there is that we want to make the incremental compilation better and to figure out which modules have not changed since the last time they've been compiled. And I think we can probably see one of those files in here now. Yes, there it is. And okay, so this is unreadable. But the general idea here, can I make it preprint that without dying? Okay, it's dying. Anyway, so the idea with this file is that it records the hashes of the files that were compiled last and at what time they were compiled last. And so the compiler can use that to figure out which files it needs to rebuild. Now, when that change was made, it was not, the IDE rebuilding was not adapted to that, is what I'm thinking, which made it so that some of the cache validation of the IDE was broken, and because it was relying on file watching before, or it still is. And I'm hoping that we can maybe use this database file that is new to make the IDE figure out when things have changed. So I think I'm going to start by looking at that file and figure out how to adapt it so that the IDE rebuilds also update that file accordingly. And then the second task is going to be to figure out if we can use that file to tell whether or not we need to invalidate our caches. So there's two problems that we're trying to fix here. So I think I'm going to start by just figuring out what this cache.db file is. And I think this is the file that actually ends up being, this is the thing. Yeah, okay, so this is the thing that ends up being serialized to the file system, and cache info is the information per module. Okay, so let's see if we can find where this is being written. So cache DB, let's see if there's any other mentions of that thing in here. Oh, that's a typo. Just gonna need to let my cat go out here. Fuck off, mate. Alright, so okay, so where is it being used? Write cache DB. I think this is the thing you'll need to look at. And so this does write JSON file. I think is a file that is exported from ASON now. Okay, so I think what it's doing is it's just writing this cache DB thing out. All right. So how do I confirm that that's what's happening? I'm not quite sure. So maybe we can start by just looking at what's going on here. A cache info contains all the information we need to store about a particular module in the cache database. So this stores a map from a file path to a tuple of time and content hash. Okay. So for every module, we're storing a map of file paths. So let's try to figure out why that is. So we're not just storing the, oh, I think I see what's going on. So we're not just storing the information about this module, we're storing information about all the dependencies. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. Okay, so this starts by taking a cachedb file or cachedb data type, takes a module name, takes this map, which I'm assuming is basically the same thing as this data type. So then it looks up the module name in the cachedb. It returns a mempty if that fails, which would make it, okay, so the mempty would be an empty map, I think. Yeah, because it's deriving the new type monoid, which means this is an empty map. Exactly, so right, so it gets that, and then what does it do? It aligns the DB info with the current info, and so this is the current info. Okay, and so it checks this thing against, okay, I see. So now we need to figure out where that's called, because I need to figure out what that third argument is, really. Okay, so here we go, and this is the cache info bit that we care about. Where is that being built? Okay, so that's path mesh out here, and that's the result of input info, which is get input timestamps at hashes. Where is that defined? So get input timestamps and hashes. It's defined in test utils, which is probably not the one I'm looking for. Probably looking for this one. Okay, so it looks up the file path for a module name, and then it okay, so and then there's a file path in there. So what does it do? Where is it? For the file path, it appends that to looking up the foreigns for a module name. Oh, I think I see what's going on. Okay, I think I see what's going on. Wait, so let's go all the way back. Okay, so the reason that this is a map from file path to this is a map rather than just a tuple is because there's multiple files and per module, in the sense that there's there's a potential foreign module as well, which is what I think is going on here. Okay, so let's try. Let's see if that hypothesis is true. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to set up like a little test case for myself here. I'm going to go and I'm going to say, let's just say that on every rebuild command, which is going to come through come through here. Okay, so this is where the rebuilding for the IDE happens, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna try to read the cache DB file somewhere in here. So was it read cache DB, and this exists within this thing. I think we're inside that. Maybe we're only inside that when we do the run make thing. Let's see if we can just try. I think I'm gonna try to run ghcid here. See if that works. If it doesn't, we're just gonna have to run full builds. So what was the read cache db? Okay, so that should just be read cache db. P probably. Like so. I have a feeling that this is not gonna work. Yeah, because this is a very different M. It's gonna be somewhere inside. I think here. Right, but it's telling you that all is good, which I doubt. Let's see. Don't get stuck. Reloading, please. Haskell tooling. All right, while that's trying to reload, I'm just gonna get a coffee, and if it's not done by the time I get back, oh. All right, yeah, so that looks like something we'll need to figure out. What is read cache db is yeah, so that should be fine. Yeah, we just need to, I think it needs to go in here somewhere. We'll figure it out in a bit. Be right back. All right, I also got a cookie, that's nice. Okay, so we can't call read cache db here because the surrounding monadic context we're in here is not the one we need for make, I think. For foreign modules probably does not need the full make. Let's look at it. No, it just needs loaded IO. Yeah, so okay. So, I mean, read cache DB should also not need the full make, right? Let's figure that out. Maybe we can just change it to only need IO as well. Okay, so it exists in here, read cache DB. Okay, it's in here. Maybe we can extract this bit. Okay, so I mean, this is just IO, right? So, okay, so let's just do that then. There's no need for that to be. Yeah, we can just extract this bit, I think, and just put it into IO, so we don't need to do other things, basically. So let's just make this IOM, and this IOM. I'm assuming it's gonna not be happy, but we'll figure it out in a bit. I have to say this is a file path, I'm assuming. So cache DB is not here, that's true. Let's do that. Let's do that. Right and okay, so where's cache DB coming from again? New type, I think. Just a type. Yeah, it is. Okay, so PureScript make cache. Let's import that. So PureScript make cache. Don't think we need this requalified. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna import cache DB from there. Language.make language.PureScript.make. And let's see, we have file path. All right, so now that compile, this should be able to say where to do that. All the way up here, I should be able to just use my read cache DB, and that should compile fine. Read JSON file. Okay, so that seems to be a thing that's actually. Oh no, it's defined in here. And it runs in make. That's annoying. Can I do this in IO instead? Let's try. Catch does not exist. What does catch does not exist do? Okay, that's IO stuff, so that should be fine. So what do I do with this? Not an IOM. M. So now it doesn't like this in line 96. Wait, what? Line 96. So make IO. That's the problem now. It takes an IO in a description. Oh, I see. Well, that's annoying now because there's some actual error handling going on here that I can't just make away. But the error handling is not useful for the IDE at all. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these as well. I'll figure out how to deduplicate this later. So that comment is not true. Path value. Don't need any of this. And then a JSON encode file. I'm assuming we're gonna have to import that. So I think that's import qualified data.json, like so, as JSON. So where is the make mentioned? Down here. This now has to be m IO. So okay, this seems to have worked. Probably not entirely. Probably this actually needs to do this, but we'll figure that out. No problem. Template Haskell. Why is there a template Haskell in here? I'll figure it out. And we want block arguments. All right. So now let's look for read JSON file. I'm gonna put that in here as well. Can do the same thing where this becomes a monad.io instead. And then we'll get rid of this stuff. And we'll get rid of this stuff. We do need to catch the error though, kind of, so. We don't need to catch it for now. We'll need to do that before we merge anything though. Catch a non-existing error here. Because we don't want this to take down the IDE server, instead we want to report an error. Okay, so cache.db file now does not work because we don't know the output path, which is true. I can hard code this for now, but that's not sufficient. But we can get rid of that, or we can figure that out. Don't hard code that. Yeah, and then we'll be fine. Okay, so what does it not like? It does not have the file path stuff. So I think that's system.filepath, and then we do this, I think. Okay, uppercase P. All right, create parent directory. Where is that from? Create parent directory apparently is also defined in here, which is just this. Keep copying stuff. Yes, and now this needs to be lifted as well. Create directory of missing. Okay, that's an import, so that's easy enough. We can do that, and I'm sure we're going to need the modification time as well, so I'll import that one as well. Take directory needs to be imported. Okay, so that's good. So we seem to be having all of this stuff. So now calling this down here, and we should be able to just trace show something. How about we trace show something about this cache.db? I think we could start by just printing out all the module names. How about that? So this is actually just an app, so we should be able to say map keys, and that should work. Apparently I've imported map as M. I'm not a big fan of anymore, but I guess I'm going to not change everything unnecessarily now. Okay, so this seems like we're in a place where we could start trying this out now. So I'm gonna stack install --fast, and then I'm gonna set up a little example project in which we can try things out, I guess. So let's make a second tab here and say I'm going to do everything by hand. So this is cache, PS cache experiment, I guess. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to touch, we're going to make a source directory. We're going to, and then I guess we could just use code to do this. So I'm just going to call this file name.pers. I'm going to make another one. I'm going to make another file here. I'm just going to be dep.pers. Let's say this is module.where, and then we're going to do a definition in here. So defin is going to be a function from int to int. Okay, so defin is going to be this. I'm going to make sure this exports defin. And then we're going to do module name where, and I'm going to import dep. And we're going to import defin from it. I'm going to say main equals, main is going to have type int, and main is going to be defin of 42. Okay, and so that should be good enough. So apparently it's already compiling. Yeah, of course it is. So it's already compiled all of this, but you can see that because the IDE compiled this, there's no cache.db file in here, which is a problem. Okay, so it's failing to do this because I think this has actually started up an IDE server. Okay, so now it did copy the binary. So now let's figure out where it's going to be looking for that binary. And it looks like the first path is the one I wanted to look for, so that's good. So now let me do first compile all the source files. And now we can take a look at exactly what we just did. So there should be a cache.db file here. That looks good. Yes. All right. Okay. And so now, if I open up the IDE server in here, like so. Okay, so the IDE server works, and now let me force a rebuild. Okay, and that should have given us an output here. Okay, so yeah, so that worked. So these are the two module names, so that's good. Okay, somewhere. And because this this project is so small, I can actually just look at this and figure out what's going on. Except for, we didn't seem to want to reprint buffer. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that's what's going on. So this is, these are the paths, the relative source paths. And then, assuming these are the file hashes, and these are the timestamps. So I think it would be nicer if these files were just strictly normalized to use the Unix style file paths, just because that would make it a little easier to be able to move these files across machines. but that's something we can figure out or just ignore for now. And so one of the things I wanted to make sure I got correct was, what if I make, what if I add an FFI file here? Because what I'm thinking is going to happen, you wouldn't need to move the cache between machines though, right? Since it's compiled generated anyway. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not something you really want to move around. Even though, oh well, maybe if you figured out some kind of caching of build products, so you were to like pre-compile all your dependencies and put them in some directory and then just share them across machines, it would be nice if you could tell the compiler that it should not need to recompile these because they're not actually like, basically you want to be able to tell the compiler that the build products you've got lying around match your dependencies. Right, if you have some kind of Nix caching or something like that going on. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to add an exports FFI. And this is going to be a function from X to X. So we're just going to do more identity functions here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these are the kinds of things. Exactly, these are the kinds of things I'm thinking about there. Where, yeah, if you have a VM that is a Unix machine and then you have, or like Linux, and that your editor runs in Windows land, it would be nice to be able to just seems more robust to me, I guess. So let's go in here and add a, so one thing is already nice. It's like picking up that there's a file now that that is being warned about, even though the file location is a bit wonky. That's fine. So I think I called that one FFI. So I'm going to do for an import FFI. I'm going to say that's the type of this thing, just the identity function. Okay, so that worked. And then I'm going to do this again. So if we look at the cache.db file, so that's the right one, seems like it. So buffer. Okay, so this is exactly what I had expected, so that's nice. This is now a map from the FFI path and the module path. And we're going to meet, and we are going to need to build something like this on every rebuild command that the user issues to us. So maybe we try doing that next. I'm hoping most of that does not live inside the make monad, so that we don't have to pull all that out or expand this code to all. I guess it's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. It's all good. All right, so one thing I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to make sure that I kill the running server so that in case we want to run stack install again, it doesn't, the file isn't locked. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the cache.db. Then we're going to do all of this rebuilding stuff. And I guess afterwards, what we want to do is we want to write the cache.db with the updated file information. One thing that is going to be a tiny bit annoying maybe is that it's hard for us to come up with a proper timestamp because the editor may call the rebuild function without actually saving the file. And so if we just take the timestamp as is right here, if we were to do something like get timestamp or something here from the system clock, we might end up with a different timestamp than the file that has been saved, or maybe hasn't been saved at all, is going to get. So that's something we'll need to figure out or think about. Maybe I'm gonna start by looking at how it interprets that timestamp. So the module has a new input file added to the file. Okay, so these, I think this is where it's comparing these things. This file exists both currently and in the cache database, and the timestamp is unchanged, so we skip checking the hash. This file exists both currently and in the cache database, but the timestamp has changed, so we need to check the hash. So does that make sense? I don't think you can build the unmodified file in Atom, at least unsaved, unmodified. Well, I mean, you can. So we're on the server side of things right here when we're working on this. So while Atom might do that or not do that, it's basically it's up to the editor to decide when to run the rebuilds. I prefer to run them only after I've saved the file, but it's definitely possible to say just rebuild without saving a file. And I think, I mean, I don't know for sure. Let's see if we can figure this out. We can see if Atom has a setting that allows you to tell it to refresh stuff, to rebuild stuff without without having to save. So let's see. So this is the experiment file project we were running. Yeah, so this doesn't want to do things the way we want it to, but that's fine. So let's see if we can figure out which one of these is reporting the errors. I thought it was called lint or something. Errors. Maybe it's the nuclide stuff. I don't know. Atom IDE UI. Maybe this thing. Code formatting debugger diagnostic. Lots of stuff. Nah. Enable diagnostics. Alright, so while you can rebuild without saving, but if there's no changes, it wouldn't need to do anything anyway, so I don't know if that matters for the time simulation. Well, the idea is that you have changed something in the editor, right? And then you tell it to go rebuild, and it figures out that like the file still compiles, and it goes, all right, cool. And then it writes the now updated compile result to your output folder. But now you figure out, that's not what I wanted to do, and you revert your file inside the editor without saving it. And now your file has a modification time that hasn't changed, and the CacheDB tells it that the modification time is correct essentially, but you've just overwritten the build product. And so now you're that's a problem, right? Because your next compilation step is not going to pick up that the incremental build product that you've created from the IDE. Can you send the modified file to compile via the IDE? Yes, exactly. You can tell it, you don't have to tell it a file path. You can tell the IDE server, this is a string I want you to rebuild. And so yeah, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to pick, if the IDE rebuilds something, we're just always going to give it a nonsensical file stamp, a timestamp. And then it's always going to run into this cache, and it's just going to have to hash the source file, which that's probably a little slower than checking timestamps, but it's going to be always correct, and it's still going to be a lot faster than having to like actually rebuild. So I think that's what we're gonna do. So, so let's just write that down somewhere, or like, I'm gonna make a to-do here. We're gonna figure out where to put this node. So, when adjusting the cache.db file after a exactly that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So when adjusting the cache.db file after rebuild, we always take a nonsensical timestamp. We're going to figure out which one that is, but it might just be the 1st of January of 1970 or something, which I think is 0 in Unix timestamps. Just going to need to let my cat in here and rely on the file hash, on the content hash, to tell whether needs rebuilding. All right, just gonna need to just a second. All right, so cookies. So we're going to figure this out. So when the rebuilding fails, we don't need to do anything, right? We don't need to write anything. This is just fine. But when we're succeeding, then we'll need to oh wait, sorry. No, I was confused. Okay, so when we're succeeding, then we need to do the thing where we write the cache.db with the updated cache.db somewhere in here. I was just confused about thinking about what the run open build was, but I think that's these parameterized ones where I'm either rebuilding the file asynchronously or synchronously. But I think, yeah, okay, so yeah, we're shushing the code gen here. This is the thing I wanted to make sure we're doing. Okay, so that's good. Right. So this run open build does not actually write to the file system, so we don't need to consider this for the cache.db. So we can do the cache.db writing before this. Right. So we could potentially, I think we don't want to write the cache.db in the case of an error. So let's just do it here, I think. Okay, so let's try that. So I'm going to call write cache.db, I'm assuming. We just need to give it a cache.db. So we're going to give it the old cache.db. We're going to need to do something to that, right? So that's a map. So what we're going to do is we're going to map.update, I'm assuming. It would be nice to have like a actually functioning IDE for Haskell, so I didn't have to look this up every time. So Haskell map. Okay, so we're using the last one here. So let us look at data.map. Okay, so everything is in data.map lazy. And so what we're doing is we're not looking for a lookup, deletion and update. This is what we're doing. Okay, so we want this one, adjust. So update a value to a specific key with the result provided function. Okay, so we're going to call it adjust. And then the first value is going to be the function, and the second value is going to be the key, where the key is the file path, I'm assuming, relative to the project directory. Right, because all of the paths in the CacheDB file were relative to the project root. So this is going to be a problem if some editor gives us absolute file paths. So let's care about that later. Make file path relative to project root. And the Haskell file system library is pretty good, so that should be fine. We're probably going to find a function in there which just does that for us. And so now all we need is this function here, which takes a cache info to another cache info. This is a cache info. There's probably a function to convert them, so to do that elsewhere already. So must be, yeah. Yeah, I'll look at that when we're convinced that the thing we're trying to do here is actually the right thing. Which I'm reasonably convinced of by now, but we'll see. So now we need to make a cache info, which is a new one. Actually, this needs to update the module name, not the file, so that's good. No, don't worry about the interruptions. It's all good. That I'm very happy that there's someone interacting. That's always more fun, and part of why I'm doing this, right? Do we actually have the module name anyway? Oh yeah, this looks like get the module name, right? Oh, hey Gary. Didn't know that. How's it going? That makes a lot of sense now. I didn't think there was any Atom users left, but yeah, I totally forgot about you, of course. It was maybe a tiny bit opaque, yes. But that's fine. That is fine now. So, all right. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna need to create a new cache info here. And I'm gonna need to, this needs to be the module name, which is just this bit. And maybe I should just do that module name up here. And then we can just use that in here and over here. Any more get module names? There's one down here, but we can't. That's not in the right scope, so that's fine. Okay, so it's just this one now. So this is module name. These friends. All right. So let's make sure we're not way off here, type-wise. All right, so for writing this cache info, this is going to be a bit tricky because the actual FFI files that we end up reading, I think, are being determined by what codegen targets are set. I think, anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check rebuild module, see about how that is implemented. And then we'll see. Yes, let's do that first. So, how's rebuild module implemented? Here we go. So this does all this stuff. Where does it figure out when to look for the FFI file? Let's look for extension. I'm assuming that might help. Infer foreign modules. I think this is infer the module name for a module by looking for the file name, the same file name with a .js extension. So it's still hard coded to be JS, I guess, in the compiler anyway. You know what's happening here? So okay, so this is doing it not just for one module, but doing it for a bunch of the modules at the same time. Provide code. Let's look at that. All right, yeah, you're right. Yeah, of course, you're right. Okay, so only if JS is a member of the codegen targets, we do all of this stuff. So, so what's going on here? I think that was actually, I just remembered there was a PR which was just opened that made it so that you could customize what extensions to look for, if I recall correctly. I know that one was closed yet before this. Added support for use a native rep. I think it's this one. Maybe it was just the REPL, but I think it taught the REPL to figure out what. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the PR anyway. All right, so this is the bit where it's actually being figured out. So when JS is part of the codegen targets, that's when we're going to do the add. That's when we'll see if there's a foreign file, and if there is, we're going to add it to the cache info data here, I guess. Right. Damn it, but we're kind of subjecting ourselves to a couple of race conditions here, in the sense that this rebuild module is reading the FFI file, and so ideally we'd be using the content hash for the FFI file that this function call has read, rather than doing it ourselves down here, because in the unlucky circumstance that someone edits their FFI file while we're rebuilding, we're going to end up giving using a different content hash compared to what this call to rebuild module saw. So this is a bit annoying now. I might need to make it so that I can observe what rebuild module is doing from the outside. When it's doing the CodeGen FFI bit. There, down here. But where is the cache DB getting this information from? Is it also reading it in like a separate, like some other time? Or right, cache, remove modules. New cache DB. Where is new cache DB being built? Good. New cache. Where is that coming from? Down here. Build plan construct. So build plan has to be reading the files there already. Yeah, I think that's the basically this is the whole reason I need, or like the primary reason is that all of this new cache DB stuff was implemented and didn't take the IDE into account. So I think that's why the file watching has been broken for a while now. And but I mean that having this is a nice thing, and I think we can take advantage of it from within the IDE, but it takes some work. And I need to figure out what's going on here. Where is it reading the FFI file is basically what I'm caring about, because it needs to do that somehow. Find existing extern. That's fine. Where is it looking for the well, that's not, I'm assuming you've been using editor mode, which is kind of circumventing this, but there's some not so nice possible race conditions there where you can get out of sync with what's in the output directory, which would make it so that like actually running a full compile does not detect that the output directory is contains like stuff that does not correspond to the source file on the in the file system. Okay, so get input timestamps and hashes. That sounds a lot like the function I need. Get input timestamps and hashes, which exists within make, and it seems to so this gives you a map of file paths, right? Where is that map coming from? Paths with info. We're traversing over input paths. Where's input paths coming from? That's file paths. File path. Okay, m.lookup module name in foreigns. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. Where's foreigns? Well, that's being passed in as a I see, so that's being passed in here. Oh no, this is getting more and more complicated, isn't it? Also, I mean, I'm calling rebuild, right? So shouldn't this be right? Oh no, I'm just calling rebuild. Okay, so I'm just calling rebuild, so that's why it does not write the cache DB, because that happens one level above it. Yeah, exactly. It's not. That's not how. Yeah, that's not going to help me a lot. So I need to figure out how to do this for the IDE. And really, the ideal thing, if I could make a wish, would be that FFI CodeGen return the content hash and did something like timestamp content hash, and that I could get that alongside the extras here, right? So something like, I don't know, FFI cache text or something, whatever that is, so that I could use that. Maybe I'm actually going to make this return the cache info for this thing. That doesn't seem like a terrible thing to me. Maybe it is, I'm not so sure. Alright, without the IDE University of updates too, then it's kind of annoying that at the moment you have to save the JS, then switch to the module and resave it to make it build in the editor. I think what that would need to do, what would need to happen there is that that the editor plugin would somehow need to know that when you're saving a JavaScript file inside a PureScript project, that needs to trigger rebuild, because it's driven by the editor, right? And so the point at which you're saving the JavaScript file, that's the bit where you need to somehow re-trigger the IDE. So I don't think this is going to fix that. But it should definitely be possible to teach whatever the Ethem plugin is doing, or like teach the language server implementation figures this out. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. All right. Yeah. So it's making the new cache to be by the time it has like after it's constructed a build plan, which is, yeah, it's a static thing. All right, yeah, sure. I'm gonna get a coffee in a second as well. Okay, so what this is doing is just removing the failures. All right, so it's all figured out by the time we get here. So it figures it out before it does anything. Maybe we can copy some of that logic and make the updated thing. Partially because I'm responsible for this thing existing even. There we go, a new cache info for this module. It should be stored for subsequent incremental builds. So wherever that is constructed, I should definitely see if I can figure that out. Rebuild status. Where is one being created? Down here. Where's the new cache info being built? Here, check change. Okay, yeah, so check change does do the thing. Damn it. maybe I can set up the right environment in the make monads that I can use check changed. Right, what do I need? I just need M? That can't be true. It already gets all this information. Okay, because this does already create the correct. Okay, I see. But maybe I can. I think I have a chance of creating that. Right back. What the hell is going on here? Seems terrible. Oh, this is test utils. I was just like, what is going on? Input timestamps. Okay, so now give me the non-hash versions. So, okay, I think I'm calling build make actions, right? Maybe I've got my own in here. Build make actions. Okay, so that does call build make actions. And then I'm doing this thing. Where am I making one of these? Making one of these. I'm going to rebuild always. I'm going to infer the foreign modules. I mean, that all seems fine. Right, infer foreign modules. That runs within monad.io. Okay, so what I'm going to actually need to do, I think, is I'm going to need to guard this on whether the codegen targets that I'm building for contains JS, and if it doesn't, this needs to be empty. Then I think I've actually got all the stuff ready here. So maybe I can just, if I just do this within the make mod, edit here, maybe I'm just fine. Is what I'm thinking anyway. So set one. This is what's going on here, which means that this is the part that is inside the view. Stop dying, please, Emacs. Stop it. Stop it. Okay. That should be fine. We just do this. Right? This needs to be probably a pure. Oh wait, no. This is an argument down here. Comment that one out. Okay, so that works. Alright, so now I can actually do some stuff in here. So what did I just try to figure out? Get input timestamps and hashes. So things p.get input timestamps and hashes. Okay, get input timestamps and hashes. Yes, get input timestamps and hashes needs a module name, and I've got one line without, luckily. Down here, so this needs a module name. That apparently it's supposed to give me a make either rebuild policy. So why is it not happy with that? It's applied to too few arguments. I don't think so. Oh, maybe. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Formatting things. What's going on? So, does it work now? Okay, so I can't mesh IO with pmake.io. Yeah, okay, so this needs to be an actual dollar. Okay, so now things are working? Nope. Starting to be a tiny bit confused. It's a member of the build actions record thing rather than a standalone function. Okay, so where do I get the build actions thing? Okay, so I need to, okay. I'm gonna figure out where it's being called, and then I'm gonna look at how they're doing it. So this is what it's being constructed. I just want to know where it's called. It's called here, and it's being extracted. Okay, like so. So by getting out the make action. So the build make actions thing does actually create. Okay, so how does that work? Do I say make actions equals this thing? Which is horrible, by the way. And then I do something like make actions. Okay, so that compiles. Okay, so now I get things. So maybe I could just print things and get an idea of what's going on here. Exactly. Ship it. So it does not know how to, wait, what? Why is this still a make thing? Wait, why is this trying to show a make thing? Get input timestamps and hashes. What's the type of that? It gives a p.make thing, but I'm binding it here, so why is this not working? Let's starting to be a bit confused. I'm thinking this is some stupid reader thing, by the way. I should not have made it this complicated. Yeah, I need to do that. But yeah, I do. So what's the type of thing, please? So X has a function type that gives back a make. Yeah, that seems fine to me. So this is an either rebuild policy map thing. Oh, I see, because the map contains a make, so the value inside that map is actually a make thing. Okay, so I need to traverse some stupid, like, deeply nested traverse thing. Or maybe I can just map this to just a file path or something. We'll try that. So things is an either. I think it's done this way because in the tests they're actually sticking in an internal error in there rather than the action that actually reads that content hash in UTC time. I'm not entirely sure. Because I think this thing is actually just like, this is pure in the sense that there's no, this doesn't do any IO. You're supposed to do it on your own afterwards. Okay, so I'm gonna map over the either, which is fmap, and then I'm gonna map over yeah, exactly. There's like a, and I actually wasted some time because I was looking at that and I thought that's silly. What's going on here? And the test utils one down here, and this is where, yeah, this is where they're putting this thing down here. So yeah, I don't know exactly what's going on there, but I'm just gonna ignore it for now. So I'm hoping that I can just do this. And then map.map needs to be m.map. Okay, that seems to compile. Ship it. So let's install this thing. Does it make sense? I mean, you basically need to make sure that you're... I don't think it makes sense because the way the compiler is set up with the like static build plan being set up, you'd really prefer the, because it reads all the information up front. You don't want some user to save a file while your thing is compiling and then to have that timestamp be different from the thing you parsed all the way at the start, right? Because and I think it's actually like when it's creating the build plan, constructing it, it does actually traverse right then and there before it gets to compiling anything. Anyway, okay, so I should be able to go and do this again. Start the server here. Okay. Let's make it rebuild. Okay. So this is a left I think it's a make in there because when you execute it, that's when it looks at the code gen targets and figures out if it needs to look at the FFI file. I think that's why it's a make and not just an IO. Okay, so it's rebuild always because I need to set that. Yeah, so so that's annoying a little bit. Basically, I need to set rebuild always because, yeah, because I'm just rebuilding this thing. But when I tell it to get input timestamps and hashes, oh, damn it. By the way, we don't need to do this via this like chat with a lot of delay in between. If you feel like hanging out, I'm totally fine with just hopping on Discord and doing this. I'm happy to turn off the stream. I mean, this is pretty complicated, and it's kind of annoying because yeah, the IDE is this whole CacheDB thing was very much not designed with the IDE or like incremental thing design in mind, basically. It's very batchy, and I don't think it has to be. It's just how it was built. So yeah, the primary problem here is that I need to set rebuild always. But really this needs to be the file path actually. I'm not sure if this is a good idea or not. This might make it so that I do not rebuild when the existing CacheDB on the file system tells me that I don't need to, I think. But I'll make actions instead of you make sense. You always want to make a record thing for some reason, but that was forever ago. I'm pretty sure things have changed. I don't know. I think I'm definitely thinking we're using it in the tests in places, and I mean I was able to set up some like make env that does things in a certain way that works for the IDE. So that's been working well. The problem is now that because it's around, it's used to do some coupling of things that I don't think need to be coupled. So I should be able to make it give me like the timestamps and content hashes for a file without first having to have set up all of this machinery essentially. I think it's similar to how in OO, if you want a banana, you first have to create the monkey and the jungle that can hold the banana, kind of thing. So what might just end up happening is that I will pull out all the stuff that just exists in IO, in Monad.io, give it the few arguments it needs explicitly, and then call those functions from within the make monad, and then over here I can just supply the arguments that are relevant. by hand. That's what I think I'm gonna do. So, for example, when it does this thing, how much of this is actually required? Like what, how much of make are we using here? Because it's, as far as I can tell, it's only file path map which is being used here. And that's actually just an argument up here. Starting yeah, I don't want to change everything all at once. I don't hate this as kind of like this is the interface you need to provide for a compiler to function. I don't think that's a terrible thing. I think some of this stuff doesn't need to be in the where. Yeah, you're right. And that sometimes, basically, as long as there's only one consumer, which is this build make actions function, sure, it can live in the where. But if I from the IDE need to use functionality that's in here, it would be easier if those things were pulled out a bit, I guess. So get the attention conversion for an input file for a module. Get output time. I think it's weird that this is, oh right, this is the documentation for this one. Okay. Up here. Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking about exactly. So maybe I can just pull out this bit, only the right case down here. So let's just do this. Call this art. I'd like to get input. Oh damn it! I'd like to get input times with hashes. It doesn't understand that that's a single Haskell identifier. Terrible. So this takes a module name. What does it also take? A file path for that module name. It doesn't need the module name afterwards at all. Does it only use that to do this thing? Oh, just a second, Mara just came on. We're back. All right, hello. Okay, so things should be back. So this needs a file path, and this needs. It's just gonna return this thing, but not in make, but in IO. I think. Get timestamp. Where's that coming from, by the way? Let's figure it out. That's a function defined in here. Okay, so that's actual IO, I guess. All right, cool. So if I want a non-make version of that, let's just leave that. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that in here because I'm gonna need that in a bit. Okay, so let's just do this part. So we've got the module name and we've got the file path. What's going on with the formatting here? I hate Haskell formatting so much. Actually, I hate formatting in general. Okay. Here we go. So this is doing the lookup in the foreigns, which I'm just going to assume that we have maybe a file path for the foreign. Like so. And then this needs to be get modification time path. Oops. Wait, what? What's happening? Just want this. This get modification time is in system.directory. Okay. So get modification time, and then hash file. I'm assuming also kind of some kind of wrapped thing, which is this function. So if I want to do that in a non okay, so this could return a make, or it could just return an IO, I guess. And then do this. Wait, what? Yeah, that's right. And then I just need to figure out where that hash is coming from. Which is from make.cache. So make.cache, and that's imported unqualified up here, so we should be good. Right. And then all of that, what's the get info bit? Alright, let's define up here. So now this should compile, I think. Wrong window, let's do this one. I'm going to listen to history. How long have we been going? An hour and 35 minutes. Usually I don't have concentration longer than 2 hours. I think I'm not gonna make it much further than 2 hours today as well. Okay, so read file, where's that called? Wouldn't it be nice if you could just auto import things? Let's do that, yeah. So let's just make sure we know what all these things are. So if I back to the module. Okay, so what's going on here? Couldn't match type either with map. That's correct. Because there's no longer a left case. I don't do pure and I don't do dollars. Saving them from a wallet. I'd like to hashes and hashes. Okay. Let's try that here. So now I should no longer need to go into to make to do this, right? I should be able to just say I'd like to get hashes, and that's probably imported from p dot. Okay, that's good. And now lift IO this thing. Okay, so now I need to provide all the arguments. This is the foreign path, which is infer foreign modules for this thing. Just gonna do a silly thing here. Now I guess, which again needs to be cleaned up. So the foreign path is going to be just a foreign's. I'm going to look up. Okay, so now I can pass the foreign path. Which I'm going to always make a just for now. Okay, so what? It's wait, where's file? No, I think file is the PureScript module path. Right. So this I'm making up this thing, but then the infer foreign module actually changes the extensions to be JavaScript files. And so I need to look that up afterwards, basically. That's what I'm doing, I think, anyway. Yeah, okay, so that's good. It's not doing stupid things here. So module name, file path, maybe file path. Module name, and this needs to be path. You're absolutely right. Yeah, here, this is the file path. And this one needs to be relative again for this thing to work out, I think, but we'll figure it out. Expect type map file path of another map. Actual type map file path of the, that looks about right. Right, and now this no longer works because yeah, things type has changed because that's now not a map of file paths to maps. That's just a map of file paths. So I no longer need to do that. I think we should be able to just say that. Okay. So if I were to stack install this one, oh, the file path isn't, okay, so the module name doesn't matter. That's good to know. One less argument is always nice, I guess. Yeah, because it only used the module name to look up the file paths, but I'm looking them up beforehand now. So that's nice, I guess. So, okay, so copying failed because I'm already running the server, which is true. Let's just kill it. And then I'm going to do this again. But I gotta say, after being used to OCaml compile speeds at work for a while now, Haskell does kind of suck in that department. And it's not just the compile time, because really so much time is wasted linking stuff, and it seems like OCaml doesn't have that problem, or maybe something's less. So it's like, I don't know. Somehow it must be better at it. And then it just hung itself somehow there, so I needed to restart it. So. Yeah, it is. It is. I think the Windows link is just really crap. I think it would be really nice. I think you can tell it to use the golden linker now, or LLD, which is like the LLVM linker, which is a lot faster than the one it's using. I think it's using the GCC linker, but of course when it's like compiled with MingWing or something, rather than being compiled against an actual libc, I think that's just why it's slower. It's like, okay, so setting the server again. Saving. Oh, it died. What happened there? It died. Given key is not an element in the map. What? Just inserted it. What are you doing? What's happening? What is infer for module doing? This seems to be the implementation. Oh yes, you're absolutely right, because there is no foreign for this module. Okay, so this is a, yeah, okay, so I mean that's fine, right? I can just do this then, that's fine. And then I do this. Good catch though. Yeah, that makes sense. She's using links for, yeah, exactly. I was doing the same thing. Well, not just because of that, but working with Haskell is definitely nicer on Linux. But it's still a lot better. Haskell, I mean, OCaml, you basically can't work, you can't do anything with OCaml on Windows. So Haskell wins in that department. Forget to use. Yeah, I'm waiting for the WSL2 thing, but I don't want to go into the like insider preview thing, because you can't roll back from that essentially. And so if you run into a bug, you can't go back to the stable Windows. So that's kind of why I don't want to do that. All right, so that compiled. Copied the thing over. So, oops. Main.pers, start the server. All right, so step one, don't crash when I do this. That's good. Look at this stuff. It didn't print anything. That's not a great sign. Look at the dep file here, because this does have an FFI file. So what happened now? Where's my server? Something was weird there. I'm just gonna start a server again. God, I hate Emacs so much. So it ran. This is the output. Okay, so here we go. So, all right. Oh, that sucks. Blasphemy. You're not using a tool unless you hate it. You're not using it properly anyway. All right, so that's good. This is good. Well, in some way it's good. It's no, it is good. I just need to change a little thing that I forgot about, which is that there is an actual file over here, which I need to use rather than annoying. Yeah, it's fine. So this is no longer a damn it. So what's happening here is that when you're doing the rebuild command, you can pass a file path for the file you want to read, and then you can tell the IDE server what file to use in the error messages, because as I said, you don't need to actually save the file in order to trigger a rebuild. But if you save to some temporary location to make a rebuild, then you might want to you still want the errors to show up in the actual files that you're looking at. So you can fake it this way. But the problem is now that when it looks up the foreign modules, it does not use the actual file. It uses the thing. Why is this always so hard? So what can I do? I could do the thing where I make a from list here. I do this, and then I say maybe from list. Oh no, list from maybe. So this is it's gonna get not quite as nice. Indenting a billion things. So the module name is going to be the same, but the path is going to be different. Going to be that one, and I'm going to get that by mapping this function over actual file. See ya. Thanks for hanging out. That was really nice. Have a nice day. And see you later, I guess. Even though I might not be streaming for much longer. So does this compile still? Why is everything so slow? Fuck you, Haskell. Better? Oh, no. Yeah. Yes, kind of. List from maybe. List to maybe. No, I want list from maybe. Maybe to list? Okay, it's probably called maybe to list. Maybe to lust. Man, why is everything taking so long? Alright, so that seemed to have compiled. So let's in here, let's kill the server. Let's do this. Okay, all right, so we installed it, so now I should be able to start up the server again. Okay, that worked. So, this is telling me now. That's the correct, well, it's an absolute path, which I don't want, but I can figure out how to not make it give me an absolute path. So that's good. Just need to also use that file down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do from maybe file, actual file. Which is going to be the last change I make before I call it a day. So I think this is going to work out, and if this works out well, I'm going to call it a day here, because I think I know a path forward, but I'm starting to lose my concentration. So maybe I'll turn on the screen later again and do a bit more, but I'll definitely have to take a break in a bit. Okay, so I started the server up again. I'm going to save it, and this looks like exactly what I was looking for. Maybe one more thing I want to try, actually. Let's kill this one. One more thing I wanted to try. Let's not const every piece of information away. Let's just use first, I think. It should give us just the timestamps. All right, yeah, that works. Okay, cool. So those are the timestamps. So the JavaScript file was changed 20 minutes ago, and this file was basically just changed. So it's microsecond precision is probably not necessarily, but okay. All right, fantastic. So I'm gonna call it a day here. This has been a kind of a drag, but it's also, I've been making a lot more progress than I expected, because I kind of know what I'm doing now and what my path going forward is. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it anyway. This is basically what working in Haskell in a larger compiler, like tricky code base, looks like. Yeah, if there's any questions, just put them in the comments in the video. I guess I can see if I can answer those, or just hit me up on Twitter at CritsCreek. Great. Bye everyone.